welcome to Climate Check. Now today I'm coming to you from the Chunga landfill right here in Matero constituency. Now this is the biggest landfill in the country, and of course Lusaka alone generates over 1,500 tons of waste every day, and most of it ends up here at the Chunga landfill. Today on the show we're focusing on environmental rights, linking that to land. Now, the world commemorates World Environment Day on 5th June 2025 under the theme Ending Global Plastic Pollution. And right behind me, you can see a tonnage of plastic and various types of solid waste right here at Chunga landfill. This is just a summarized picture of what is happening around the country, and especially in urban areas where plastic is very, very difficult to manage. And so we will be delving into that and how, as a country, we can begin to take steps to end plastic pollution. We'll take a short break. Welcome back to Climate Check. Right behind me you can see a waste dump vehicle, or a tractor rather, bringing some of the waste from the various parts of the city. Now earlier on we had an opportunity to speak to the Norwegian DanChurchAid project here in Zambia. It's an organization that is already doing something about plastic pollution right here in Lusaka. Let's hear more about what they're doing.
So this is plastic that is not only collected from our office, but also from other civil society organisations who bring it here. We've sent out messages to more than 100 organisations that if they just want to bring any plastic waste at all of any type, they can put it in this yellow skip and we'll deal with it. And what we do is we have a couple of private sector entrepreneurs who will take this away and they will turn it into usable objects that they can sell.
Okay. How do you think we can end plastic pollution in Zambia? First of all, is it possible?
It is very possible, and it just requires a bit of effort on the part of citizens and on the government especially. So first of all, we need to find a way to have the extended producer responsibility scheme put into action. This is a current law in Zambia. It basically says that if I'm a producer of any good, and that good contains things like plastic that are harmful for the environment, it's my responsibility as the producer to pay into a scheme, not taxation, but it's a ring-fenced pot of money that can be used to deal with the thing that I've put in the environment that is bad for the environment. So for example, if I'm making soda bottles and they're made of plastic, then as the producer of that soda bottle, if I want to put it on the shelf of a supermarket, I immediately pay a small amount of money into this scheme so that when the consumer buys it and throws it, it can be dealt with. And I can pass that cost on to the consumer. And we're talking a tiny amount of money. So imagine if you had to pay 1 kwacha more for your bottle of Coke or for your sandwich wrapped in cellophane. You wouldn't hesitate. It's 1 kwacha. But those 1 kwachas, they add up to huge amounts of money. We're talking globally in Zambia like millions of dollars over the course of a year. And those millions of dollars can pay for the trucks and the staff and the factories needed to come to an office like this, remove the waste, take it, process it, and make sure it doesn't contaminate the environment. Unfortunately, it's not effective at the moment because it's a voluntary scheme that companies can do. And that creates an unlevel playing field. If I'm a responsible company and I want to pay into that scheme, my competitors are not doing it, they have an advantage over me. So eventually I might decide to stop, even if I'm happy to pay into it. So what we need is the government has to make it mandatory. And they're actually working on that now. We are hoping and expecting this year that ZEMA will make that scheme mandatory. So every single producer will be forced to pay into that by law, whatever they're making, whether it is a washing machine or a soda bottle made in plastic, or any item that at the end of its life is going to contaminate the environment by its disposal, they'll pay into that scheme. And so what the government has to do is they have to set the pricing schedule. what, as a producer, do I pay in for a soda bottle versus a washing machine versus a bit of cellophane wrapping? And when all those prices are clear, it becomes very easy for the producers, the companies, to pay in. And these companies do it, especially the global companies, they're used to doing it. They do it all over the world. They're perfectly happy with it because it doesn't cost them anything. They pass the tiny, tiny cost on to the consumer, and the consumer does not even notice because it's a tiny amount of money. So there's really no reason not to do it. It's taken 8 years to get from the policy to this consultation phase, but we are really now hoping that this goes through, it becomes mandatory, and that will start to solve the problem. And it will create a lot of jobs. So there's no reason not to do it, because there's not easy ways to recycle. We wanted to recycle our plastic, and we had to create our own recycling value chain. So we collect it from ourselves, from other NGOs, CSOs, we store it here, we send it to companies, but basically that's because there's no government scheme to do that. So if I'm a normal household, it's really difficult. But what I would say is what you can start doing is you can start separating your waste out, and you can try and find places, because they do exist. You have to go a bit out of your way to find them. But there are companies, for example, there's Recycle Mania in McKinney. There's also Green Earth Solutions has put bins around some areas of Lusaka. So there are some places you can find to recycle. If you can find those places and take your plastic there, great. But now what we really, really need is we need the government to get the scheme up and running, because it's not realistic that most people can do that. Yeah, it's just, there's a bit of a barrier and a hurdle to cross that most people will just not have the time or the knowledge to be able to cross.
What lessons can government draw from other countries that have advanced in creating a circular economy?
Well, only Kenya and South Africa in sub-Saharan Africa have a mandatory extended producer responsibility scheme. So those would be the two countries to learn from. So if Zambia can do this year, we'll actually be quite progressive as far as sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, Europe, America, etc., they're much more advanced in this. It's been decades and decades we've known that this is a problem, and that countries have started doing something about it. I think another great place we can learn from is Rwanda. You know, Rwanda is not a rich country, but they were the first country in the world to ban plastic bags back in, I think, 2008. So we're talking 17 years that they've been refusing plastic bags or any sort of this thin plastic in the country and using paper bags. And it didn't cost them money. They just had to decide. They just had to have the willpower from the president down, President Kagame, who said, no more, it's polluting our environment, we will ban it. And then we'll figure out how to deal with that next, but right now it's banned. And they just moved. So what we need is action. You can just do this. You can make these decisions, can make these things mandatory, can just move, and the world will catch up with the decision.
There's companies that produces plastic bags in this country.
Yeah.
They produce millions of them in a year.
Yeah.
How can we start solving this problem from that end? Is there any way that the quality and the type of plastic they're producing is monitored?
Well, the best thing to do is just to ban it and to give them fair warning. You know, say in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time, this will be banned. So you as a business start to change your business model. If you want to make paper bags, that's fine. If you want to do something else that will be allowed under the scheme, fine. But, you know, this type of plastic we're banning, because the thin plastic stuff, the bags, the cellophane, that's kind of the one that is a bit more tricky to deal with in terms of recycling. There are options like Plaster Pave have a solution where they can turn any sort of plastic into picnic benches, school benches, synthetic lumber, fence posts, paving stones, by melting it down, mixing it with sand. And we're hoping as well that this solution that Plaster Pave has come up with, that we can help them to take this globally, because this is actually very novel. No one around the world is doing this, but there's a Zambian entrepreneur, Mulela, who has invented this way herself, and the rest of the world can learn from Zambia on this. But we just need to have people know. We need to spread that knowledge.
What are the dangers of plastic to the environment?
Well, plastic takes hundreds or even thousands of years to break down, and when it breaks down into this kind of soup. So as it slowly breaks down, it gets into the soil, into the water, and then it gets into the food systems, it gets into the things we eat, and then it gets into us. So they've already tested like rivers and lakes and oceans all around the world. They haven't found a single one anywhere that is not contaminated with plastic. So already we've got an ecological catastrophe on our hands to deal with. And we don't know what the impact of this on our bodies will be. This is a new phenomenon of our generation, the last, say, 50 years. So we don't know what the health implications are going to be for humankind. But we need to take very fast action. We need to stop putting more plastic in the environment. I think less than 10% is being dealt with properly. So 90% of it, which is thousands of tons of plastic for Zambia alone, every year is going into the environment. And we've got to stop that, but we've also got to clear up the mess that is already there. The good news is that when we clear it up, that mess has a value. We can use it in different ways to either reduce our energy bill. Maybe we're going to burn it in a cement factory instead of using diesel. Maybe we're going to take it and turn it into a school bench. But these things can be sold on the open market. So the good news is that it's a solvable problem, and it can even create jobs, but we just have to have the will to act, and we have to want to do it, and we have to have government policies that, for example, ban plastic bags or fine people for littering.
And lastly, what is your word to the Zambian citizens and government as a whole as we commemorate World Environment Day under the theme Beating Plastic Pollution, which falls on Thursday, 5th June 2025?
Well, there's so many messages, but one, if you're a Zambian, please do not throw plastic on the ground, in the bushes, put it in a bin. Even if it's going to go to landfill, that's better than just throwing it in the gutter or a river. Then to the government, please, we need a mandatory extended producer responsibility scheme. We need it now. We need those jobs. We need the plastic taken from the environment, and we can do it together. And then for international and national NGOs, CSOs, we need to get out there and talk to people about this. They need to understand that the dangers to the environment of throwing plastic in the ground. They need to be an ally. We've got to work on this all together. We need people to separate their waste, send it to the right place when we have those systems. And we need more businesses, more entrepreneurs like Plasterpave to come up and to start taking action to do something about this problem.
Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, and happy World Environment Day.
This is Climate Check. Now, as a country, Zambia is making strides to address plastic pollution. For example, for you to get a plastic bag in a shop, you have to pay a little bit more for you to access the plastic bag. So these are measures aimed at ensuring that we reduce the usage of plastic and encouraging people to have reusable bags. But that is not all. And so what can Zambia learn from other countries on how they have transformed their countries into a circular economy, where the system works efficiently, where from the point of the generation of waste, it is recycled eventually for reuse. And so we had an opportunity to visit REMEO. This is a company in Finland that specializes in collection of various types of waste and separates the waste and creates value out of it by creating this clean plastic that can be used by different companies to make various products. Let's find out more about this great company, REMEO. She is explaining the process of recycling waste that ends up as clean plastic paper, which can be used for the production of other usable products. This is REMEO, a Finnish environmental management company developing new solutions for processing solid waste.
The quality controlling room, from where we can see materials that are clean by the sorting line. So you can imagine what kind of like a mixed waste, a mixed kind of plastics, all kind of different ketchup bottles, shampoo bottles, candy wrappings, pasta wrappings, whatever you can think of is come as one, and then by the end of the line it is clear plastic. This is this one in particular is clear low density polyethylene. This one goes to the compressor container unit, and then we can sell it to the customer who is making something out of it. And the clear plastic is actually quite difficult to come by in a facility like this, but we are making it 95% pure, which is enough for the customers who are then making it into something new. Most of the time it is this kind of like industrial wrapping plastic or some other kind of clear recycled plastic containers. One can use them in food packaging as well, or some other kind of product packaging that needs clear plastic.
The company chief executive officer gives background to REMEO's role in Finland's circular economy.
The purpose of our company is to put materials back into good use. So we take waste materials and sort them, clean them, and then sell them to other companies so that they can make good use of the materials instead of landfilling or incinerating them. We play a very important role. We've invested 35 million in the facility that's behind me, and in that facility we are able to sort construction and demolition waste into new materials, taking plastic, sort them, or also waste from industry and commercial companies, and that way we are contributing to the recycling and circular economy targets of Finland.
How easy is it to have access to this waste that you are processing? How do you collect this waste?
We have a service business which does waste collection for the public sector and enterprises, and from there we're able to get all the material we need to run this facility. We are controlled by the authorities. We have an environmental permit that we need to follow continuously, and we have also very good internal controls for all the operations we are doing.
Talk to me about the trucks that you are using for bringing some of this waste in terms of being environmental friendly.
Yeah, so traditionally all the heavy machines and heavy trucks have been run by diesel engines. We have started the transition to an electric fleet. So some of our waste collection trucks have a battery and they are operated electrically.
Having toured the facility, we saw a lot of technology, robots, and so on and so forth. How does this contribute to the quality and accuracy of your work when using robots, for example?
Robots are never tired, so they always do the same quality of work, and they are able to be very precise in the sorting of the waste. They're also very efficient. They can be adjusted for different materials, and that way we get the results we need.
The company uses high technology to collect, separate, and process the waste. Now, the use of robots is a game changer in this process, as the robots tackle the work that would take long for humans to do.
We have a construction waste line that we just came through, and on this line we have energy sorting line, and our friends are walking over there. And it's different, yes. The other one after this one is mixed colors of low density polyethylene, and then you can make gray or some other kind of. You can mix colors, but most of the time it's gray, and it's used for other kind of products, such as the plastic bag that you can buy from the grocery store when you go. The two behind it, they're actually at the moment more or less the same, because we can adjust the lines as well as we like. They are the high density polypropylene, which is the hard kind of plastic, hard plastics we call them around the facility. Yes. In here I sometimes come through the quality controlling room, and I can see it. 95% again. How fun. Well done. And then I can say thanks to the personnel on the facility. Well done.
Finland has an efficient way of collecting waste, which ends up at various waste management companies. Citizens are encouraged to dispose of used bottles in automated machines that instantly issue receipts for payment for the bottles. As the world commemorates World Environment Day for 2025 under the theme Ending Global Plastic Pollution, accumulation of plastic in the environment is causing harm to humans, wildlife, and the ecosystem. This pollution is mainly caused by the overuse and improper disposal of plastic products, especially single-use plastics like bottles, bags, and packaging materials. Mary Mukisa for Climate Check.
Zambia and Finland have reaffirmed their long-standing water sector partnership, pledging to enhance technical cooperation and governance at the 3rd African Implementation and Partnership Conference on Water, Pan-AFCON 3rd, held at Mulungushi International Conference Center in Lusaka. Speaking during the signing of the joint communique, Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, Engineer Collins Zovu, described the renewed cooperation as a catalyst for sustainable development and water security in Zambia and the region.
What we set out to do in the various bilateral agreements. So there's renewed energy to ensure that we cooperate more and more. There's also something else we've asked the Finnish to help us with, and this is on ensuring that we have strong legislation for water resource management, for pollution control, and indeed I think we'll make good progress in that. I think this also talked about enhancing water governance, the same thing in the mining sector, advancing water diplomacy in Africa, and that platform will be a very, very good platform. So in all, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we want to basically announce that we are making very good progress with our Finnish colleagues, and we intend to do more together. So today we are going to sign our joint communique, and the highlights are what I was talking about, unless I've left out something.
Among key initiatives announced, Zambia and Finland declared their joint intention to co-chair the Water for Cooperation Dialogue at the upcoming UN Water Conference in 2026. Finnish Ambassador to Zambia, Her Excellency Ms. Sanna Helinen, said the collaboration reflects shared values and goals.
Happy. I'm proud to be a partner and a sponsor to PanAfcon. We did not only bring funds to support the conference, but also our wide experience and expertise in the water sector, in particular in the areas of transboundary water collaboration and water diplomacy. We organized a joint session with Zambia and UNECE on these themes, and Finland also announced our joining in the Team Europe initiative called Blue Africa on transboundary water collaboration. We are very, very proud of that. The collaboration in the water sector between Finland and Zambia is growing and has been growing during the past year tremendously. And we saw PanAfcon as the perfect opportunity to jointly announce this growing collaboration. A year ago, we had very little collaboration in this sector, and now we are seeing many new initiatives in the pipeline and ongoing. So this is hugely exciting for us, and this is the reason we are now announcing a joint communique on our growing collaboration.
The agreement includes commitment to implementing existing bilateral agreements promoting water operators, partnership, and establishing a Zambia-Finland Water Forum, ZAFIWAFO, to deepen stakeholder engagement. The communique was signed on, marking a significant step forward in water sector diplomacy between the two nations. Zakaria Nyimbili report.
Now, plastic waste not only affects the environment as in land, it also affects water bodies and aquatic life, and eventually it affects you and I and human health. This has been Climate Check for this week, as we were commemorating World Environment Day on this episode, and of course reminding you of the need to take care of environmental rights and taking care of our land on which we live. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.